Thank you, Terry, for the great conversation that takes us towards a bold and ambitious idea what it would mean to make the physical world more searchable and navigable and interactive as a web. To explore that vision, we are joined with Nils Pihl, CEO of Aki Labs. Nils is an entrepreneur, behavior engineering, and social transhumanist whose work focuses on the relationship between emerging technology and human behavior. Through his leadership, he is helping building what he calls the real world web, an undecentralized network designed to make physical space browsable and understandable to robots and AI. His thinking draws from fields including meme theory, game theory, and behavior psychology. And he also uses all this framework to shape conversations around the future of artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and robotics systems across projects ranging from neutral interfaces to large-scale behavior analytics. His work asks how advanced technology can really be meaningful integrated into human society. Let's welcome Nils. Thank you.
All right, so I had prepared a different presentation, but after seeing all the great speakers cover so much ground that I wanted to talk about, the only thing that was left for me that I really wanted to talk about is why should you care about XR? Why should you care about XR as an interface to AI? And for me, where that starts, I guess the clicker doesn't work for me. I believe the universe is always building a bigger intercognitive computer. This is one of the things that the universe does, the same way there's evolution, there's gravity. Ever since language was invented, ever since the meme was invented, language allows us to solve problems together, to think together, to experience things together, and have intersubjective experiences. Earlier today, Matt was talking about how world models are not made of language. We have world models before we learn to speak. But one of the powerful things about language is language allows us to sync our world models with each other, which is really magical if you think about it. One of my favorite thought examples is, I want you all to imagine with me for a while that we are walking through a forest and we come across a fallen tree. And I point at the fallen tree and I say, hey, look at that beautiful couch. When you describe the fallen tree as a couch, you reveal an affordance about the fallen tree, and you literally reach into the perception, or in this case, the imagination of the other person, and you change their model of the world. This is what language is for. Language is absolutely magical, and as someone who's super passionate about memes, when I discovered augmented reality, I just fell in love because clearly language is the original augmented reality. What humanity does is augmented reality. There is no universe where humanity does not invent augmented reality. I think augmented reality and XR is as inevitable as like internet pornography. There is no timeline where we don't invent this technology. And what is so powerful about augmented reality is that it allows us to manifest our knowledge and imagination in the minds of others. Truly magic. The late, great Terence McKenna said that shamanism is when you venture out into the unspeakable and you return with a description and language that helps us understand the world better. And ever since the oral tradition, to writing, to the printing press, to the internet, the universe has been building a bigger intercognitive computer. And language has gotten so magical that we got virtual reality, worlds made entirely of language that you could disappear into and perceive them. But now something really crazy is happening. We are at the great reversal, where beings made entirely of language has to come into the physical world. And again, XR to the rescue. Spatial computing was the technology that allowed us to make VR headsets. And I'm gonna submit to you today that a VR headset is really just a robot with no arms and legs, and that the iPhone you have in your pocket is a robot with no arms and legs, but also, meaningfully, the robots live in augmented reality. The robots live in augmented reality. Oh, you did get my slides. Oh yeah, but not the clicker. There we go. About a year and a half ago, Jensen Huang, that used to be a nice little curve, but Keynote messed it up for me, said, I've noticed some other great doozies. Jensen Huang said we going from generative AI to agentic AI, and that's super exciting, obviously. But the next big leap is going to physical AI, an AI that has an understanding of space, of physics. And the reason why it's the next big thing is not only because it's harder, so we haven't done it yet, but also because 70% of the world's GDP per head count and per dollars is tied to the physical world. So like the AI revolution has barely begun. If you want to make a company bigger than Anthropic or bigger than OpenAI, you need to be in physical AI. And if you want to be in physical AI, you need to be in XR. I submit to you that there are 6 layers to making robotics work, in no particular order. Of course, there's locomotion. You need to teach the robot to traverse the environment. And there's manipulation, allowing the robot to affect the environment. And almost all like VC money and PhDs is going into locomotion and manipulation today. If you had a robot that could only do locomotion, you have a Unity G1 straight out of the box. Like the only thing it can do is walk and not fall over. It doesn't do anything else. You can't ask it to empty the trash can. If you add manipulation, you still can't ask it to go empty your trash cans. You need to start adding perception as well. More specifically, you need spatial semantic perception. Spatial meaning understanding the awareness of things, and semantic meaning the thingness of things. And once you have a robot that can do locomotion, manipulation, and spatial semantic perception, now you have the first robot that can maybe go empty your trash cans, but it's going to bounce around your room like a first-generation Roomba until you give it mapping. Maps are just a memory of where things are in the world. And once you have a map, and this is the thing that made me really fall in love with like this part of the tech tree, you need positioning. You need to understand where you are in relation to the map. Here's a shocking thing. I've got a couple of gray hairs in my beard. 60% of people younger than me cannot read a map if you remove the blue dot, right? 60%. So most of the people in this room, well, maybe this is Harvard, so maybe better, but 60% of people younger than me cannot read a map if you remove the blue dot. And robots are the same way. In 2019, when I got into spatial computing, I wanted to do shared augmented reality for my favorite tabletop game, Warhammer. That's how I fell into this. I wanted to have shared augmented reality overlays on this tabletop game, and I knew nothing about spatial computing. And I just assumed, like I think a lot of people assume, that like you could just use the GPS for that, right? Turns out that the GPS is a line-of-sight technology. You cannot use it for Warhammer. It only has meters of accuracy, not millimeters of accuracy. So we have to build perception, we have to build mapping, we have to build positioning, and there's a lot less effort going there. So if you're a student wondering, like, how can I be useful and how can I help build out physical AI, work on those problems. We like working on collaborative perception mapping and positioning. That's what we do at my company, but I'm not going to bore you with what I do. But here's what we believe and what we told our investors back in 2021. We said that these are robots with no arms and legs, and that robots live in augmented reality, right? So if you can get really good at collaborative perception and mapping on these devices, then you will be prepared for the glasses, and when the robots come, you'll be prepared for the robots. What I was super wrong about is that the robots came before the glasses. Who would have known? But the principle remains the same. And the issue, what did we start doing with the phones? With the phones, my personal mission in life is to increase civilization's intercognitive capacity, right? That's what I want to do. And that's what I want to use augmented reality for. So when we learned how to do shared augmented reality, what we started doing is building co-pilots for people doing physical work. Our most popular product is a co-pilot for retail workers that allows them to leave notes for each other in the retail environment, like this is something that needs to get done. They can do handovers asynchronously. They save 45 minutes per employee per day. All of that was cool and fun. But when the robots came, we realized that actually the most meaningful thing a robot can help us do in the retail environment is not what the investors would have guessed, and if I'm being honest, what I would have guessed as well, you know, like go do restocking and things like this. The retailers want a robot to tell them what to do. One of Europe's largest retailers flew to our lab in Hong Kong, I live in Hong Kong, and said, oh, we have 10,000 associates on the floor. We think we lose 30 to 60 minutes per day per employee to not knowing what to do. Is there any way you could get the robot to populate the AR task manager so that when we show up in the morning, the robot just tells us what to do? Great idea. They're going to pay us 6 times as much as those humanoid robots that fold your laundry get, just for looking at the world. And this, you know, if you're students and you're thinking about what to do, there's a lot of perception tasks in the world that turns out being really, really valuable. The challenge is, how do you talk to a robot? How do you tell a robot what to do? Here is one of my proudest moment in my career. This is from a live stream. We're streaming live from a pair of Mentra glasses. We're streaming to the real world web, this thing that we're building. And it's in the same coordinate system as this robot. So when my colleague says, hey, robot, come to me, the robot understands what my colleague means, because the robot and the glasses and the phones are all in the same coordinate system so that you can express what it is you want. How do you talk to a robot? Well, the robot lives in augmented reality. So you make an augmented reality bridge over to the robot. All of these different robots that you see here, different manufacturers, different devices. I may have been drinking. Enormously joyous moment using augmented reality to communicate with the robot. Here is a digital twin made just walking around with your phone, and the robot uses the digital twin made by the phone to understand where it can navigate and not navigate, and someone on their computer can see the data both from where the robot reports that it's all of this intercognitive capacity. Right? How can I talk to the robot? How can the robot talk to me? How can the robot tell me what shelf to go restock? And we're getting increasingly better and better at it. The challenge that we have as a company is that we have to have multiple different kinds of devices, robots, glasses, phones, collaboratively build up this model of the world, not world model, but model of the world, and keep it up to date so that they can communicate with each other where things are. And I've never had so much fun as now working on increasing the intercognitive capacity of civilization. I want us to learn how to talk to the robots. I want the robots to learn how to talk to us. And I think that augmented reality is an incredibly powerful way for us to talk to each other. The oldest technological project that humanity has is augmented reality. And there is no cooler field to be in. There has never been a cooler time than now. One last plug here just to show what we built. So last year, to demonstrate the concept of the real world web, we rocked up to a conference in real time. We placed a couple of markers across the venue. We started filming it with our phones. And in real time, just made AR navigation available at the conference so that people could go find booths and stuff with their phones. And then we brought a humanoid robot over that had never been there before, and it could plug into the same AR navigation. So we could ask the robot, hey, where's that booth? And it, because it lives in augmented reality, it could use the AR navigation and go there. I love augmented reality because I think it plugs into what makes us human. The thing that makes us human, in my mind, is the fact that we are mimetic beings, that we build our civilization out of language. We build our civilization one conversation at a time. And now we are at this time of the great reversal, where we are building a bridge for these beings made entirely of language to come join us. Congratulations, everyone, on choosing XR as your field of interest and hopefully your profession. Language is augmented reality. Language is magic. We're going to build a bridge to the digital world, and we're quite literally summoning demons, you guys. If you want to read more about what I do, feel free to scan this QR code. That's all I've got for you guys. Thank you so much.